Hello there, folks. I'm Dan Brown from a sort of interesting life.com. You're joining me on board good old Narrowboat Tilly, and you might hear the fire crackling away. There's a lot of fresh wood on there, as you can probably tell if it's showing up on the audio of this video. Anyway, today we are going to have a look at one of the absolute worst bits of boating that I have ever been involved with. And this should have been really one of the simplest manoeuvres through one of the smallest locks that I've ever been through as well. I mean, the water level drops literally about that much. In fact, on the bottom gate, there's only actually one paddle to lift up to drain the lock. But somehow, well, I suppose instead of looking at this, why don't we actually see some footage and I'll show you everything as it unfolded. It's not going to be dramatic, it's going to be very slow speed, but my goodness me, it's terrible, terrible tiller work. Anyway, let's get stuck in. Right then, I thought we'd do a lot of this video as a time-lapse, but not massively fast time-lapse, otherwise this video would literally go on for over 22 minutes. But I wanted to start with this clip of me unmooring Tilly, and you can see as soon as I threw that front rope across, all of this movement from the boat moving to the right-hand side of the screen is all based on the wind, and it got steadily stronger and stronger, obviously as more of the side of the boat turned directly into the wind. But this part is where it all started to go properly wrong. So, look at that, beautiful straight side with mooring mushrooms there. Nice and simple, let's just moor up and start to slow down. And, oh, you see the boat wobble as they hop off to try and grab a rope and pull her in. But what's this? Even though it looks like the stillest, calmest day ever, the boat gets blown back out into the middle of the canal. So you can see a lot of the rocking around of the boat here as I'm jumping back on and all the rest of it. Then the ripples in the water as I try and reverse back up and just get over to the right hand side to moor up. But yeah, it's not going to happen. So with the little flow of water where the runoff is just on the left hand side of the screen there, we'll see that properly in a second, coupled with the little breeze that was in the air. I mean, you can see the trees blowing, but it's not as if it's a great big gusts and gales. But that was enough to stop me getting over to that right hand side properly. And again, in real life, in real time, this actual clip, I don't know how long this section lasts, but it's longer than it is here. And so it's just that infuriating thing of travelling so slowly and trying to reverse up and it taking minutes and minutes and minutes, yet still ending up basically, I suppose, washed up against the little runoff here. But that did mean, at the very least, that Tilly was in a very stable, secure place that she wasn't going to rush off to. So I gave the camera a very square-looking shrug there and just started to go through the lock. Like I say, that's the one benefit of this, and it happening here at least, is that the canal's nice and narrow, and there's not like a massive drop in the water level. Like I say, it's only like about a foot or so that the water changes here. You can see as they go back into a time-lapse now, how the boat starts to move around slightly as the water's being taken in to fill the lock up there. But again, as soon as the level is stabilised, how the back end of the boat starts to be pulled back in towards that runoff. So again, like I say, this is a super simple small lock and shouldn't really pose many problems compared to what potentially can happen with bigger locks. However, as we go through all this, you'll see in just a moment that I do a lot of wandering around and looking at different bits and pieces in this video, as I just could not figure out why on earth the top gate wouldn't open. And in the end I was like, nah, I'm sure I didn't leave any of the top paddles up and let the water keep coming in while I was trying to drain it here. But as it turned out, basically there was just enough leaking water and not enough water getting out through this bottom paddle to empty the lock properly. So I had to just give it a little bit of a push to open that gate. And again, that's just another little additional thing of adding in why it took 20 odd minutes to get through this little tiny lock here. So yeah, like I say, it's not the most dramatic video ever, but it's just one of those things where I think because in real time this is such a slow video that when you're just floating around, like trying to get into the lock at the start of this video, it's unbelievable. Like you're literally just, I mean, you consider how slow that all was with the time lapse, and then in real life and in real time, that's so much slower, and you're literally like stopping absolutely dead in the water at moments and then really slowly trying to back up, and you start to get a little bit over to the side and then the wind just blows you back across, and it's that usual thing of it's more the endless battle of wits and patience, I suppose. And if you lose your general sort of concentration, then it can all go wrong. But when you're operating so slowly, your concentration is also being sort of tested along with your patience in terms of like, oh, I want to just rush. Oh, I'll just try and force it through. I'll just try and do this a bit quicker, which again then can lead you to start making silly mistakes. So, as you can see, I just walked Tilly out here because I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to get on board and then risk being blown over to the other side again. So I'll grab the ropes on the side of Tilly and that'll do it. And now we've gone back to real time again here. So you can see just how slow and how it's the slow inevitability of all this that really sort of that's the real killer, I suppose, in terms of what makes this like a frustrating thing to be going through and doing like as you're going through the motions at the time, I suppose. So here you can see me just trying to keep a hold of everything basically, and I could feel it starting to pull away and start to push away to the left hand side here that you can see just inevitably happening here on the screen. And of course, because the lock sort of bends away from the boat as you leave the lock, it meant that I couldn't get to the front of the boat properly to grab that rope and pull it into the side. So I could only control the boat from the back end of the boat, which again, if you pull the back end of the boat to the right, that just sends the front end of the boat even further into the left. So you can see here the final insult really of all this. And of course, because the boat just ended up getting wedged over here, I took this as an opportunity to go back and close the lock gate and put the paddle down and that at the very least behind me. But ultimately, this was the simplest, smallest lock that there is to get through, and somehow it's the worst passage of a lock with the most ridiculous stuff going wrong here, as you can see, that I have done probably ever in my life, apart from when we were originally fetching Tilly back up this way, me and my friend, long time ago, and ended up in some very heavy rainstorms at moments, and that caused a huge rush of water that pushed Tilly really to clack the side of the lock heading in. But I hope you've enjoyed this totally random video of my total ineptitude here on Tilly. Until the next time, please do check out the hundreds of boating videos there are on this YouTube channel for all sorts of different things, from videos like this to documentaries. Feel free as well to check out my short boat life Kindle books if you're really interested. You'll find links to those in the description, and boaty Facebook and Twitter stuff and all that sort of goodness. But until the next time, have an absolutely fantastic day, keep it boat worthy, and of course, farewell.